In the heart of Texas cattle country, where fortunes are made and lost based on the quality of livestock, there existed a bull that nobody wanted. His name was Charlie, and by every standard measurement used in the cattle industry, he was a complete failure. Charlie stood in the far corner of Riverside Ranch, owned by billionaire cattle baron William Big Bill Morrison. At 3 years old, Charlie should have been the pride of the herd, a massive, muscular specimen ready to command top dollar at auction. Instead, he was barely 900 pounds, significantly underweight for a bull his age, with a coat that was patchy and dull rather than the gleaming black that buyers expected from premium Angus cattle. But Charlie's physical shortcomings were just the beginning of his problems. Unlike other bulls who displayed the aggressive dominance that ranchers valued for breeding purposes, Charlie was gentle, almost timid. He preferred to graze quietly by himself rather than assert dominance over the herd. When other bulls challenged him, Charlie would simply walk away rather than fight, a behavior that made him worthless in the eyes of traditional cattle breeders. "That bull is an embarrassment to this ranch," Big Bill had declared during a meeting with his ranch foreman, Jake Martinez. "3 years I've been feeding him, and he's got less fight in him than a house cat. He's never going to amount to anything." Jake, a weathered cowboy who had worked with cattle for over 30 years, felt differently about Charlie, but kept his opinions to himself. He had noticed things about the young bull that others missed: his intelligence, his calm demeanor around humans, and most importantly, his effect on other animals. Whenever there was tension in the herd, Charlie's presence seemed to calm things down. Injured or sick cattle would often seek him out, as if his gentle nature provided them comfort. Big Bill Morrison hadn't built his empire by keeping sentimental attachments to underperforming livestock. Riverside Ranch was a business that supplied premium breeding bulls to ranches across the Southwest, and every animal had to earn its keep. Charlie's failure to develop into a profitable bull meant he had become nothing more than an expensive burden. "I want him gone by the end of the week," Big Bill had ordered. "Sell him, donate him, I don't care. Just get him off my property." Jake had spent days trying to find Charlie a good home. He called every rancher he knew, contacted animal sanctuaries, and even reached out to hobby farmers who might want a gentle bull as a pet. But Charlie's reputation had preceded him. Word had gotten around the cattle community that Riverside Ranch had a dud bull they were desperate to get rid of. "Nobody wants a bull that won't fight," one potential buyer had told Jake. "What's the point of owning a bull if he can't defend his territory or breed properly?" What these buyers didn't understand was that Charlie's gentleness didn't indicate weakness or inability to breed. It showed a different kind of strength, an emotional intelligence that was rare in bulls. But in an industry that valued aggression and dominance above all else, Charlie's unique qualities were seen as defects. The weekly cattle auction at Lone Star Livestock Exchange was typically where Riverside Ranch's premium bulls would sell for tens of thousands of dollars. Big Bill's bulls were legendary in Texas, massive, aggressive specimens that commanded top prices from ranchers looking to improve their herds. The auctioneer would often start bidding at $50,000 for a Riverside Ranch bull, with prices frequently climbing much higher. But when Charlie entered the auction ring that humid Tuesday morning, the atmosphere was completely different. The usual excited chatter among buyers died down to uncomfortable murmurs as they watched the small, gentle bull walk calmly around the ring, showing none of the snorting, pawing aggression they expected. "Ladies and gentlemen," announced auctioneer Tommy Walsh, a man who had been selling cattle for 25 years, "we have here a 3-year-old Angus bull from Riverside Ranch. Do I hear an opening bid of, well, let's start at $10,000. Silence filled the auction barn. Tommy tried again, this time dropping the opening bid to $5,000, then $3,000, then $1,000. Still no takers. The professional cattle buyers in attendance weren't interested in what they saw as a defective animal, and the smaller ranchers couldn't see past Charlie's unconventional demeanor to recognize his potential. "Do I hear $500? Tommy called out, desperation creeping into his voice. This was the lowest opening bid he had ever called for a Riverside Ranch animal. More silence. Charlie continued to walk calmly around the ring, occasionally stopping to look at the crowd with what seemed like curiosity rather than the aggressive posturing typical of auction bulls. Finally, an elderly voice called out from the back of the barn, $1! The crowd turned to see who had made such an insulting bid. Standing near the exit was Samuel Rodriguez, a 78-year-old retired teacher who had recently inherited a small farm from his late brother. Samuel had come to the auction not to buy cattle, but simply because he enjoyed watching the process and reminiscing about his childhood visits to his uncle's ranch. Tommy Walsh looked confused. In his quarter century of auctioneering, no one had ever bid just $1 on any animal, let alone one from a prestigious ranch like Riverside. "Sir, did you say $1?" Tommy asked, thinking he had misheard. "Yes, $1," Samuel replied firmly, walking closer to the ring. Something about Charlie had caught his attention. The bull's calm demeanor reminded him of a pet steer he had loved as a child. The silence in the barn was deafening. Big Bill Morrison, who was watching from the owner's box, turned red with embarrassment and anger. Having one of his bulls sell for a single dollar was the most humiliating moment of his professional career. "Going once for $1, Tommy called out, still hoping someone would make a real bid. "Going twice." No one else spoke up. The professional buyers weren't about to waste money on what they considered a worthless animal, even for such a low price. "Sold for $1 to the gentleman in the blue shirt." And just like that, Charlie became the cheapest bull ever sold at Lone Star Livestock Exchange. What nobody in that auction barn could have predicted was that this worthless $1 bull was about to change Samuel Rodriguez's life in ways that would shock the entire cattle industry. Have you ever seen something that others considered worthless but recognized its hidden value? Do you think society sometimes overlooks gentle strength in favor of aggressive dominance? Share your thoughts in the comments. Samuel Rodriguez drove his old pickup truck home with Charlie secured in a borrowed livestock trailer, still unable to believe what he had just done. At 78 years old, he had never owned cattle before, and here he was with a bull that had cost him exactly $1 plus the $50 transport fee. Samuel's small farm consisted of just 15 acres that he had inherited from his deceased brother, Miguel, 6 months earlier. The property included a modest house, a small barn, and several fenced pastures that had been empty since Miguel's death. Samuel had been considering selling the land, but something about the peaceful setting had made him decide to try his hand at rural living instead. "Well, Charlie," Samuel said as he helped unload the bull into one of the pastures, "I guess we're both starting over." Charlie stepped calmly out of the trailer and immediately began exploring his new surroundings. Unlike the cramped, competitive environment at Riverside Ranch, this place was quiet and stress-free. Charlie seemed to sense the difference immediately, lowering his head to graze contentedly in grass that was softer and more abundant than anything he had experienced before. Samuel spent the first week simply observing his unusual purchase. He had bought books about cattle care and had called the local veterinarian, Dr. Patricia Valdez, to come check on Charlie's health. What Dr. Valdez found surprised her. "Mr. Rodriguez," she said after completing her examination, "this bull is actually in excellent health. His smaller size isn't due to illness or poor genetics. It's likely due to stress and competition for resources. In a calmer environment with proper nutrition, he could develop quite well." "But everyone at the auction acted like he was defective," Samuel replied. Dr. Valdez smiled. "The cattle industry values certain traits, size, aggression, dominance, but those aren't the only measures of a good bull. This one has intelligence and a calm temperament that could be incredibly valuable in the right situation. If this incredible story is touching your heart, please like this video. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss our heartwarming stories that prove miracles happen every day. Comment below and tell us, have you ever rescued an animal that others had given up on? We'd love to hear your stories. As the weeks passed, something remarkable began to happen. Charlie started gaining weight and muscle mass at an impressive rate. Without the stress of competing with larger, more aggressive bulls, he was able to eat peacefully and put on the size that had eluded him at Riverside Ranch. But more importantly, Charlie began to display qualities that Samuel had never expected. The bull seemed to understand that Samuel was elderly and moved carefully around him, never showing the unpredictable behavior that made most bulls dangerous to be around. When Samuel worked in the garden, Charlie would often graze nearby, as if keeping him company. Most surprisingly, Charlie appeared to be protective of his new owner, positioning himself between Samuel and any strangers who visited the farm. Samuel's neighbor, Maria Santos, was the first to notice Charlie's unusual behavior. Maria ran a small farm next door and had been skeptical when she learned that her elderly neighbor had bought a bull. "Samuel, you need to be careful," she had warned. "Bulls are dangerous animals, especially around older people." But when Maria came to check on Samuel one afternoon and saw him working in the garden with Charlie grazing peacefully just a few feet away, she was amazed. "I've never seen anything like it," she told her husband that evening. "That bull acts more like a dog than livestock. He actually seems to be watching out for Samuel." Word of the unusual partnership between the elderly man and his gentle bull began to spread through their rural community. People would drive by Samuel's farm just to see the sight of man and bull working together in perfect harmony. Local farmers, many of whom had dismissed Charlie as worthless at the auction, began to take notice. The transformation wasn't just in Charlie's physical condition, it was in Samuel's life as well. The retired teacher had been lonely since his wife's death 2 years earlier, and the move to his brother's farm had been an attempt to find purpose in his remaining years. Charlie had given him exactly that. "You know what, Charlie?" Samuel said one evening as he brought the bull his dinner. "I think we're both exactly where we're supposed to be." Samuel began documenting Charlie's progress with photos and a daily journal. He was fascinated by the bull's intelligence and gentle nature, qualities that seemed to contradict everything he had read about cattle behavior. Charlie would come when called, seemed to understand simple commands, and displayed an emotional sensitivity that Samuel found remarkable. The most extraordinary example of Charlie's unique character came when Samuel suffered a minor heart episode while working in his garden. Samuel had felt dizzy and sat down heavily, unsure if he was having a heart attack. Charlie, who had been grazing nearby, immediately approached and positioned himself next to Samuel, providing a warm, stable presence that seemed to calm the older man's panic. When Maria Santos found them an hour later, summoned by Charlie's unusual bellowing that seemed designed to attract attention, she discovered Samuel leaning against the bull, conscious but weak. Charlie had remained motionless the entire time, apparently understanding that his owner needed support. "That bull saved your life," Dr. Sarah Chen, the emergency room physician, told Samuel later. "Having something stable to lean against and staying calm likely prevented your condition from worsening." The story of how Charlie had helped during Samuel's medical emergency spread throughout their small Texas town. People who had heard about the worthless $1 bull began to see him in a completely different light. Local news reporter Jennifer Martinez heard about the story and decided to investigate. When she arrived at Samuel's farm to interview him about his unusual bull, she expected to find an interesting but minor human interest story. What she discovered was something much more significant. Do you believe animals can sense when their owners are in medical distress? Have you ever had a pet or animal companion that seemed to understand your needs better than some humans? Tell us about your experience in the comments. Jennifer Martinez had been a livestock reporter for the Austin Tribune for 8 years, covering everything from rodeos to agricultural innovations. She had seen thousands of cattle and thought she understood bovine behavior. But Charlie challenged everything she believed she knew about bulls. "Mr. Rodriguez," Jennifer said as she set up her camera equipment in Samuel's pasture, "I have to be honest. When I first heard about your bull, I thought this might be a cute story about an old man and his pet. But watching Charlie interact with you, I'm seeing something I've never witnessed before." Samuel smiled as Charlie approached them calmly, showing none of the wariness that most bulls displayed around strangers. "Charlie's special, that's for sure. But I think maybe people just haven't given bulls like him a chance before." Jennifer had arrived expecting to spend an hour gathering material for a light weekend feature. Instead, she found herself documenting behavior that seemed to contradict established understanding of cattle psychology. Charlie demonstrated problem-solving abilities, emotional intelligence, and a level of human-animal bonding that she had only seen in domesticated pets. "Watch this," Samuel said, walking to the far end of the pasture. "Charlie, come here, boy." The bull immediately stopped grazing and walked directly to Samuel, showing the kind of responsive behavior typically associated with dogs rather than livestock. But what impressed Jennifer even more was Charlie's gentleness around Samuel's obvious physical limitations. The bull moved slowly and carefully, seeming to understand that his elderly owner couldn't move as quickly as a younger person. Jennifer spent 3 hours at the farm, conducting her interview and filming Charlie's behavior. What she captured on video would soon change both their lives in ways none of them could have anticipated. "Mr. Rodriguez," Jennifer said as she packed up her equipment, "I think your story is bigger than just a local interest piece. Would you mind if I share this with some colleagues who specialize in animal behavior?" Samuel agreed, thinking it might help other people understand that gentle bulls like Charlie deserve better treatment than they typically received. Jennifer's first call was to Dr. Amanda Foster, a renowned animal behaviorist at Texas A&M University, who had spent decades studying cattle intelligence and social structures. Dr. Foster had published numerous papers challenging the traditional view of cattle as simple, instinct-driven animals. "Amanda, you need to see this footage," Jennifer said when she reached Dr. Foster. "I've found a bull that's displaying behavior I've never seen before." Dr. Foster agreed to review the video, expecting to see typical human-animal bonding that had been misinterpreted by non-experts. What she saw instead made her immediately cancel her afternoon appointments and drive the 2 hours to Samuel's farm. "Mr. Rodriguez," Dr. Foster said after spending an entire day observing Charlie, "I need to ask your permission to conduct some formal behavioral studies with your bull. What I'm seeing here could change how we understand bovine intelligence." Samuel was happy to cooperate, especially when Dr. Foster explained that the research might help other gentle bulls avoid the fate that Charlie had nearly suffered. Over the following weeks, Dr. Foster conducted a series of tests that revealed Charlie's extraordinary cognitive abilities. He scored higher on problem-solving tasks than any bull in the scientific literature. He demonstrated emotional intelligence that rivaled that of dolphins and primates. Most remarkably, he showed clear signs of empathy and protective behavior toward humans, particularly Samuel. "These results are unprecedented," Dr. Foster told her research team. "We're looking at a level of bovine intelligence that challenges everything we thought we knew about cattle cognition." But the most significant discovery came when Dr. Foster decided to investigate Charlie's genetic background. Using DNA analysis, she traced his lineage and made a discovery that shocked the agricultural world. Charlie was descended from a legendary bull named Gentle Giant, who had lived in the 1940s and was famous for his unusual intelligence and calm temperament. Gentle Giant had sired hundreds of offspring, but his genetic line had been largely eliminated from modern breeding programs because ranchers favored more aggressive bulls. "Charlie represents a genetic line that we've nearly lost," Dr. Foster explained to Samuel. "His ancestors were bred for intelligence and gentleness, traits that have tremendous value but aren't appreciated in today's cattle industry." Word of Dr. Foster's research began to spread through academic circles, and soon Charlie became the subject of international attention. Researchers from universities around the world requested permission to study him, and animal behavior experts flew to Texas to observe this remarkable bull. The media attention brought unexpected visitors to Samuel's small farm. Representatives from major cattle operations, including Big Bill Morrison from Riverside Ranch, arrived hoping to purchase Charlie or acquire breeding rights. The offers were staggering, some reaching into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. "Mr. Rodriguez," Big Bill said during his visit, his voice thick with barely contained anger at having missed out on such a valuable animal, "I'll offer you $500,000 for that bull right now." Samuel looked at Charlie, who was grazing peacefully nearby, then back at Big Bill. "Mr. Morrison, with all due respect, Charlie isn't for sale. He's not livestock to me. He's family." The rejection of such enormous sums puzzled many people, but Samuel's neighbors understood. They had seen the bond between the elderly man and his gentle bull, and they knew that some things were worth more than money. Dr. Foster's research culminated in a groundbreaking paper titled "Emotional Intelligence in Bovines, a Case Study in Genetic Preservation." The paper, published in the Journal of Animal Behavior, documented Charlie's extraordinary abilities and argued for a fundamental shift in how the cattle industry evaluated breeding stock. "We've been selecting for the wrong traits," Dr. Foster concluded in her paper. "Intelligence, empathy, and gentleness aren't weaknesses. They're strengths that we've systematically eliminated from our herds. Charlie represents what we've lost and what we could regain. The publication of Dr. Foster's research created a sensation in agricultural circles. Cattle ranchers around the world began reassessing their breeding programs, looking for bulls that had been overlooked because they didn't fit traditional aggressive stereotypes. But perhaps the most meaningful response came from an unexpected source: children. Schools began bringing students to visit Samuel's farm to meet Charlie and learn about animal intelligence and kindness. Charlie seemed to understand his role as an educator, remaining calm and gentle with even the youngest visitors. "He's teaching them that being different doesn't mean being less valuable," Samuel observed as he watched a group of elementary students carefully pet Charlie's massive head. "Maybe that's the most important lesson of all. Do you think we've been judging animals, and maybe people, by the wrong standards? Have you ever seen someone or something dismissed as worthless that turned out to be extraordinary?" Share your thoughts in the comments. Within 6 months of Dr. Foster's paper being published, Charlie had inadvertently started what agricultural journalists dubbed the gentle revolution. Cattle ranchers across the globe began seeking out bulls with Charlie's calm temperament and intelligence, challenging decades of industry orthodoxy about what made valuable breeding stock. The transformation was most dramatic at Lone Star Livestock Exchange, the same auction house where Charlie had sold for $1. Auctioneer Tommy Walsh, who had been embarrassed by that historic low bid, now found himself fielding calls from ranchers specifically looking for gentle, intelligent bulls. "It's the damnedest thing I've ever seen," Tommy told reporters. "6 months ago, nobody wanted a calm bull. Now they're the hottest commodity in the cattle business. I've got buyers flying in from around the world looking for Charlie's relatives." Jake Martinez, the foreman who had tried so hard to find Charlie a good home, was vindicated in ways he had never imagined. Big Bill Morrison, faced with plummeting demand for his aggressive bulls and skyrocketing interest in gentler animals, was forced to completely rethink his breeding program. "Jake," Big Bill said during a tense meeting in his office, "I need you to track down every bull we've sold off for being too gentle. I want them back." "Sir," Jake replied with barely concealed satisfaction, "most of those bulls were sold for slaughter or ended up at small farms. Finding them won't be easy, and buying them back is going to cost a fortune." Big Bill's empire, built on producing aggressive bulls, was suddenly obsolete. Ranchers who had once paid premium prices for Riverside Ranch bulls were now demanding animals with Charlie's characteristics. The irony wasn't lost on anyone in the industry. The bull that had nearly destroyed Big Bill's reputation was now the model for success. Samuel Rodriguez found himself at the center of this agricultural revolution, though he never sought the attention. Reporters, researchers, and cattle buyers made pilgrimages to his small farm to see Charlie and learn about the new paradigm in cattle breeding. "I keep telling people that Charlie isn't unique because he's magical," Samuel explained to a group of visiting ranchers. "He's unique because he was given the chance to show what he could do. How many other Charlies are out there being overlooked because they don't fit the old mold?" Dr. Foster's research had expanded far beyond studying Charlie alone. She had established the Gentle Genetics Project, a nationwide effort to identify and preserve cattle bloodlines that carried traits for intelligence and gentleness. The project was funded by a coalition of progressive ranchers who had recognized the value of Charlie's characteristics. "We estimate that over the past 50 years, we've eliminated approximately 80% of the genetic diversity that produced bulls like Charlie," Dr. Foster explained at a major agricultural conference. "We're in a race against time to preserve these bloodlines before they're lost forever." The economic implications of the gentle revolution were staggering. Ranches that embraced the new breeding philosophy found that their gentle, intelligent bulls produced calmer herds that were easier to manage, suffered less stress-related illness, and produced higher quality meat. The financial benefits quickly convinced skeptics who might have dismissed the movement as sentimental. Charlie himself seemed unaware of the revolution he had sparked. He continued his peaceful existence on Samuel's farm, serving as a living ambassador for a new understanding of bovine potential. Schools, agricultural colleges, and research institutions regularly brought groups to observe him, and Charlie appeared to enjoy the attention. The most touching visits came from children with special needs. Word had spread through educational communities that Charlie had an extraordinary ability to connect with children who struggled with traditional social interactions. Autism specialists brought students to the farm, documenting how Charlie's gentle presence helped children who rarely engaged with others. Charlie doesn't judge, explained Dr. Rebecca Torres, a child psychologist who brought her patients to visit regularly. He accepts everyone exactly as they are, and children sense that immediately. I've seen nonverbal children speak their first words while petting Charlie. Samuel had established the Charlie Foundation, using donations from visitors to provide scholarships for agricultural students studying humane farming practices. The foundation also funded research into animal intelligence and supported small farmers who wanted to transition to gentle breeding programs. The international attention brought some unexpected challenges. Animal rights activists, initially supportive of Charlie's story, began demanding that he be released to a sanctuary rather than remaining on a working farm. Samuel found himself defending his relationship with Charlie to people who believed that no human should own such an intelligent animal. Charlie chooses to be here, Samuel explained to protesters who had gathered at his farm. He has 15 acres to roam, he's never confined, and he can interact with visitors or retreat to privacy as he chooses. This isn't ownership, it's partnership. The controversy intensified when a radical animal rights group attempted to liberate Charlie by cutting his fence and trying to load him into a trailer. Charlie's response surprised everyone. He refused to leave Samuel's property and became protective when strangers tried to force him into their trailer. The incident was captured on security cameras and only strengthened public support for Samuel and Charlie's relationship. As Charlie's 4th birthday approached, exactly 1 year after his purchase for $1, Samuel organized a celebration that drew thousands of visitors to his small farm. Agricultural leaders, researchers, and families came to honor the bull who had changed an entire industry. "A year ago, I bought Charlie for $1 because I felt sorry for him," Samuel told the crowd gathered in his pasture. "Today, I realize that he's worth more than money can measure. He's taught us that intelligence comes in many forms, that gentleness is strength, and that sometimes the most valuable things are the ones others throw away." Big Bill Morrison attended the celebration, a humbled man who had learned painful lessons about the cost of arrogance. He approached Samuel privately, carrying an envelope. "Mr. Rodriguez," Big Bill said, "I owe you an apology, and I owe Charlie something too." He handed Samuel the envelope. "That's the deed to the 100 acres adjacent to your farm. I want Charlie to have more room to roam, and I want to fund the expansion of your foundation." Samuel opened the envelope, stunned by the gesture. "Mr. Morrison, this is incredibly generous. But why?" Big Bill looked at Charlie, who was peacefully accepting pets from a group of children. "Because that bull taught me that I've been wrong about everything that matters. It's time I start making amends." Do you believe that one individual can really change an entire industry? Have you ever seen someone's success inspire others to reconsider their assumptions? Share your thoughts about how change happens in the comments. 5 years after his $1 purchase, Charlie had become the most famous bull in the world. But more importantly, he had fundamentally changed how humanity understood the relationship between intelligence, value, and worth. The gentle revolution that began with his story had transformed not just the cattle industry, but had sparked broader conversations about how society treats those who don't fit conventional molds. Samuel Rodriguez, now 83, moved more slowly around the farm, but remained actively involved in the Charlie Foundation and the ongoing research projects. His partnership with Charlie had given him a purpose he had never expected in his final years, and their bond had only deepened with time. "People ask me if I ever regret spending that $1, Samuel often told visitors. "I tell them it was the best investment I ever made. Not because of the money Charlie could be worth now, but because of what he's taught us about seeing value where others see worthlessness." The Charlie Foundation had grown into an international organization with chapters in 12 countries. The foundation's scholarship program had sent hundreds of students to agricultural schools to study humane farming practices, and its research grants had funded groundbreaking studies in animal cognition and welfare. Dr. Amanda Foster had become the world's leading expert on bovine intelligence, largely due to her work with Charlie. Her research had expanded to include horses, pigs, and other farm animals previously underestimated for their cognitive abilities. The Gentle Genetics Project had successfully identified and preserved dozens of endangered bloodlines with traits for intelligence and docility. Charlie saved more than just his own genetic line, Dr. Foster explained in her latest book, The Charlie Effect, Rediscovering Animal Intelligence. He saved the concept that intelligence and gentleness are valuable traits worth preserving in our agricultural animals. The economic impact of the gentle revolution had exceeded all predictions. Ranches worldwide reported that gentle, intelligent cattle were not only easier to manage but produced superior results in every measurable category. Stress-related diseases dropped dramatically, meat quality improved, and handling costs decreased significantly when cattle were calm and cooperative rather than fearful and aggressive. Big Bill Morrison had become one of the movement's most enthusiastic converts. Riverside Ranch, once famous for producing the most aggressive bulls in Texas, was now known for breeding the gentlest and most intelligent cattle in the world. Big Bill had not only survived the industry transformation, but had thrived by embracing it completely. Charlie taught me that strength doesn't come from intimidation, Big Bill reflected during an interview for a documentary about the Gentle Revolution. Real strength comes from intelligence, adaptability, and the ability to form meaningful connections with others. The most profound changes, however, were in the children who had visited Charlie over the years. Thousands of young people had learned about empathy, acceptance, and the value of looking beyond surface appearances through their interactions with the gentle bull. Dr. Rebecca Torres had published extensive research on the Charlie effect in child development, documenting how exposure to Charlie had lasting positive impacts on children's social and emotional development. Children who had been dismissed as learning disabled or behaviorally challenging often thrived in Charlie's presence, gaining confidence and communication skills that transferred to other areas of their lives. Charlie doesn't see labels or limitations, Dr. Torres explained. He sees each child as worthy of gentle attention and respect. Children sense this acceptance and respond by believing in themselves. Educational institutions around the world had implemented Charlie programs based on the principles learned from Samuel's farm. These programs use gentle animals to help children develop empathy, communication skills, and confidence, particularly benefiting students with special needs or behavioral challenges. Charlie himself had aged gracefully, remaining healthy and active despite his celebrity status. At 8 years old, he had sired dozens of offspring through carefully managed breeding programs designed to preserve and spread his unique genetic traits. His children and grandchildren were already demonstrating the same intelligence and gentleness that had made their father famous. The most significant of Charlie's offspring was a young bull named Hope, who displayed even more advanced cognitive abilities than his father. Hope had been donated to the new National Center for Animal Intelligence, a research facility funded by the Charlie Foundation to study and preserve intelligent farm animal bloodlines. Hope represents the future, Dr. Foster said as she watched the young bull solve complex puzzle boxes designed to test problem-solving abilities. Charlie showed us what we had lost, but Hope shows us what we can achieve if we continue to select for intelligence and gentleness. Samuel's health had begun to decline in recent months, and he spent more time sitting in the pasture with Charlie, enjoying the peaceful companionship that had defined their relationship. Charlie seemed to understand Samuel's increasing frailty and had become even more protective and gentle in his presence. "Charlie," Samuel said during one of their quiet afternoon sessions, "I need you to know that you've given me the most meaningful years of my life. When I bought you for that $1, I thought I was saving you, but you're the one who saved me." The global impact of Charlie's story had reached far beyond agriculture. The concept of recognizing hidden value in overlooked individuals had inspired social programs, educational initiatives, and business practices worldwide. The Charlie principle, the idea that society's rejects might be its greatest treasures, had become a guiding philosophy for progressive organizations across multiple industries. Major corporations had adopted Charlie-inspired policies for hiring and promotion, specifically seeking out candidates who had been overlooked by traditional recruitment methods. These programs had discovered remarkable talent among people who didn't fit conventional molds, proving that Charlie's lessons applied to human resources as well as animal breeding. On the 5th anniversary of Charlie's purchase, Samuel organized what he announced would be his final celebration. Thousands of people gathered at the expanded farm, now encompassing over 200 acres, donated by Big Bill Morrison and other supporters. The event had grown into a combination agricultural fair, research conference, and celebration of animal intelligence. 5 years ago, nobody wanted Charlie, Samuel told the massive crowd gathered in the main pasture. Today, he's proven that value isn't determined by first impressions or conventional standards. He's shown us that the most important qualities, intelligence, kindness, loyalty, and love, often come in packages that don't look like what we expect. Samuel paused, stroking Charlie's massive head as the bull stood calmly beside him. Charlie's greatest lesson isn't about cattle breeding or animal intelligence. It's about the importance of giving everyone, human or animal, a chance to show what they're capable of when they are treated with respect and given the opportunity to thrive. As the sun set over the Texas landscape, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, Samuel sat in his favorite chair in the pasture, with Charlie lying peacefully beside him. The gentle bull who had been worth only $1 had become priceless, not because of his monetary value, but because of the invaluable lessons he had taught the world about recognizing worth in the most unexpected places. The Charlie Foundation continues to operate worldwide. The gentle revolution has permanently transformed agriculture, and countless children have learned about acceptance and value through programs inspired by a bull who was once unwanted. Charlie's legacy proves that sometimes the most profound changes begin with a single act of compassion, like spending $1 on a creature everyone else had given up on. In a world that often judges value by appearance, aggression, or conformity, Charlie's story remains a powerful reminder that the most precious qualities, intelligence, gentleness, and the capacity for love, often come in forms that society initially rejects. Sometimes the best investment you can make is believing in someone or something that nobody else wants.